Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Pruners, loppers, and hand saws are for small branches, but for the big stuff, you need a chainsaw. Today, we're going to learn how to safely use one. Also, boxwood is an iconic landscape plant. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Wes Hopper. Wes is a certified arborist, and Joellen Dimond will be joining me later. Wes, always good to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
Today we're going to talk about chainsaw safety. How important is that?
It's extremely important if you have the need to cut wood.
Okay.
And we're in the season for cutting firewood.
Yes.
A lot of people are going to be going to Lowe's or Home Depot or their local hardware store, and they're going to buy a chainsaw possibly and cut firewood.
And you said something earlier that I must repeat.
Okay.
Chainsaws don't come with directions, right?
Not good directions.
Not good directions.
It says pull the cord and start.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Need a little bit more than that.
Need a lot more than that.
Okay. Well, can you get us started then?
I can.
All right.
Here on the table here, I've got a variety of different chainsaws, two older models, and the importance of abandoning the use of the older models because of the lack of safety apparatus on it, and they're so heavy.
They're
Here
definitely heavy.
is an old, and these saws do run, by the way. This is an old Sears Poland model. What you have here is no chain brake. So in the event that this would kick backwards, and I'll explain that, you don't have any way of stopping this chain, and it could cut you.
Oh wow.
If it's used improperly.
Right.
Same with this little guy. This is a 1975 model still, but we don't use these anymore. Again, no chain brake. This one here has actually almost cut me before. I was using it properly, but I was getting tired. And I recognized the fact that I was getting tired, so I turned it off and I put it back in the truck.
And like you mentioned before, these are heavy.
They are extremely heavy. But I used these for years. You know, I was a professional tree climber for most of my career. So swinging through the trees with a chainsaw was my job.
Wow, my goodness.
I never got cut so bad.
Thankfully, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And you got to keep them sharp too.
Okay.
Okay, you'll see this one here is more like a newer version of these, but here you have a chain brake. See, if it kicks back.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there's one thing about this chainsaw. It's not really meant to be used this way. This is the way that you properly hold this chainsaw. Okay? Break off, break on.
Gotcha.
And you'll notice that this has a sleeve on it. That's not only to protect you but it's to help protect these teeth on this chain because you want a good sharp chainsaw.
Okay.
Cutting with a dull, it's just like when your grandpa teaches you about using a knife. He says you want a sharp knife because a dull knife will cut you quicker than a sharp knife because you got to put more force into your cutting.
Okay, makes
sense. It can kind of be the same way with a chainsaw.
Okay.
Okay, again, here is more of a homeowner model. So your homeowners, like the young man that bought a new home, you know, he's got some acreage and he wants to cut some trees down to get some clearance.
Okay, so that's
a little
ideal
overgrown, so this would be ideal for that.
All right.
Again, chain brake and so on. This one here, we're stepping up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a big one.
This has some a lot of power right here.
Right, I bet you.
All right, this is not a typical homeowner saw.
Okay.
It's heavy and it's meant to work, and it's meant to work all day.
Okay. I like that. It's meant to work. So what about the size trees for each one of the chainsaws?
Oh yeah. This would be more for, this is what, a 24-inch bar.
Okay.
This is like a 16-inch bar, 12-inch, 12-inch, and 16. Okay. So obviously you with a 12-inch bar or 14-inch bar, it's going to be more for a tree like this size here.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't always have to use the chainsaw, so I always keep a variety of different saws. This is for the professional. I have cut plenty of trees down with this handsaw, so you don't always have to have a chainsaw to do your job. And then for pruning, got larger, coarser teeth on this handsaw. finer teeth for fine pruning, and then all the way down to
All right, got to have those, right?
don't leave home without them.
Yes.
Don't leave home without them. You know, a good master gardener always carries a
That's right.
good pair of pruners.
That's right. Got to have that. Make sure they're sharp too, right?
That's right.
All right. So any other safety items that we need to talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
This helmet here comes equipped with a face shield, ear muffs.
Nice.
Remember, these chainsaws are loud, and if you're running it for a long period of time, by the end of the day, your ears are probably going to be ringing.
Yeah.
So this is an option. This is an option for hearing protection. These are basic expandable
Yeah.
earplugs. You just wad them up, put them in your ears, and it helps. I've had plenty of these types of earmuffs. I keep breaking them. And, you know, carrying a lot of tools in the truck.
Gotcha.
You know, or these right here. If you lose them, it's $2.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good investment.
Yep. And this hard hat here, and back up. These are all rated for, you know, by ANSI standards, American National Standards Institute,
Okay.
and they have to be tested, tried, and proven to be used in the field of tree care.
Gotcha.
This one here is made out of Kevlar. This is the same material that the firefighters' helmets are made out of.
Okay.
Because this is actually a brush firefighter's helmet.
Okay.
I usually always have my hard hat with
Always
me.
have the hard hat.
Yes. Along with that, I mentioned the face shield. This is one of my grandchildren's sock. It worked perfect
That is okay.
for my safety glasses.
Ah.
These are clear, and on the real sunny days, I have some darker ones, so if I'm looking up a lot, the sun's not going to
Gotcha.
blaze my eyes.
Okay.
I will mention this, when you're working outside, it's important to have your safety glasses,
Okay.
especially if you're looking up in the trees a lot. And this is information for maybe a professional tree climber. Your eyes can get sunburned. My eyes are permanently sunburned
Wow. Okay.
just from looking up for so many years. I've trained tree climbers and, you know, rigging and looking up a lot.
Okay. Wow.
So,
Didn't realize that.
so
That's good information, man.
and these they're wrapped up, because if you leave them in your truck, you leave them on your shelf, then they're going to get scratched.
Okay.
These, you notice, are a different color.
Yeah.
So these kind of, you can see on a cloudy day, but it still reflects the sun from your eyes.
Okay.
So,
Wow. And they look good on you, Wes. That's good.
yeah,
How about that?
Got to have something to make me look good.
So now we're gonna get to the first aid kit, right?
Yep.
'Cause you gotta have that.
Almost to the first aid
Almost.
kit.
Okay. Almost
All
to the
right,
first aid
one of
kit.
the more important.
One more.
I got a chart that will tell you. I didn't make the chart, but it lists the numbers of accidents annually with professionals,
Okay.
the number of fatalities with professionals, and it also lists the number of homeowners accidents and fatalities as well.
Okay.
That's information that's put out by the Safety Institute.
Okay.
But the two number one places that people get cut with chainsaws is on the thighs
I can see that.
and in the shoulder,
Okay.
or thighs and the shoulder.
Okay.
This is to protect your legs in the event that you're running this chainsaw. Now, it's got buckles that go all the way around.
Right, I see.
And if we were to cut a tree today, I'd make sure that I got all my safety apparatus on.
Okay.
So they're cutting, and the chainsaw goes across the leg just like so. Or they're one-handing, drops in just the leg. So,
Okay.
so chaps. This is also made of a material
Yeah.
similar to Kevlar, and sometimes it is Kevlar, but when that chain gets caught up in here, the fibers get pulled out, and it wraps up inside the sprocket of the chainsaw and shuts it off so it doesn't cut anymore.
Okay. Got
Instead
it.
of steadily running,
Got it.
it just pulls this apart. Now, once it does that, you got to toss these and buy another pair.
Okay.
But compare a $70 pair of chaps to your leg.
No comparison. Yeah.
All right, two final things
Got
is one is to keep a cell phone handy. Say, like, if you do twist an ankle or something while you're running a chainsaw, you can pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, I need a tractor,
Right.
you know, or I'm out in the field.
Right.
Water,
Gotta have a little water. Stay hydrated.
got to stay hydrated. You got to remember, you're working hard. You're not keeping up with what time it is or how long you've been doing it, and you go home and your back hurts and you want to drink some water. But the more water you drink, the better you'll be. This should be your friend. Everybody should have a first aid kit in their vehicle, truck, home, wherever. But this, I mentioned the ANSI standards. Okay. This is rated by ANSI. So we have Band-Aids all the way up to stop bleed kit in here. So if you have to immediately put something on that wound, you want to have a bleed kit handy.
Yeah, definitely need to have that on site.
Yes, because remember, this is a very dangerous piece of equipment. Most dangerous hand tool sold on the market.
Well, Wes, we appreciate that good information about chainsaw safety. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's needed information.
Oh yes, very much needed. So thank you much.
Yes.
Fall is here, and people in Bermuda grass and zoysia grass is going dormant now, and people think that's a good time to fertilize your grass now. But for Bermuda grass and zoysia grass, this first number here, nitrogen, no nitrogen fertilizer this time of the year because it's going dormant. You want to make sure it don't get no growth on it this time of the year. Phosphorus and potassium is good for your Bermuda grass now because it's good for the root system. And this is a good time to do a soil test to make sure that you need to add these numbers to that. But for your fescue lawn, fall is a good time to start fertilizing it now because it begins to grow now. And on the bag of fertilizer, we see a complete fertilizer with all three numbers. Maybe 13, 13, 13, 12, 12, 12, 6, 12, 6, 12, 10. But you got a complete fertilizer right there with the fescue lawn now. It begin to grow now. You see all that green folks lawn now? That's what they have. But the grass start turning brown. You got Bermuda grass and zoysia grass. Hold back on your nitrogen fertilizer. Give it phosphorus and potassium, and it's good for the root system and also help fight off diseases.
All right, Joellen, let's talk about boxwoods, right? Popular shrub. It seems like everybody has a boxwood shrub at home, doesn't it?
Yes, everybody's got boxwood.
It seems like it.
The scientific name for the genus is Buxus.
Uh-huh.
Of course, the one thing that's great about boxwood is that they're evergreen. Mm-hmm. So they stay green all year long.
Right. That's good.
And of course, they have small leaves, so they're considered a medium to fine textured plant in the landscape.
Okay.
And they've been a staple for many years. Flowering, they do flower. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't really see the flowers, but sometimes some of the varieties are fragrant, so you can smell them when they bloom. And it's usually March to April that you smell that.
Okay.
Planting it. How do you plant boxwood? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, tell us how now.
They like well-drained soil.
Well-drained. Not wet feet.
No wet feet.
Well-drained.
They prefer even soil moisture, but after they have been established, they will take some drying out, which when you think about it, think of old homes that have huge boxwoods in front of them, around the United States. They don't really have irrigation systems on those, but yet they are still there, and some of them are as old as the house.
Right. Okay.
So, they do well in the landscape.
Okay.
But we're going to keep that in mind when we talk in another minute.
Okay.
When I say they like well-drained soil, now that means that they can get some diseases when they get too wet.
Sure.
So some diseases that are associated with them are root rot,
sure,
foliar diseases, spots, cankers, blight, and the new one that's out there called boxwood blight.
Yeah.
Now, there's a way to get around boxwood blight. They're doing a lot of quarantine now, so hopefully everything that you find at a nursery has got a certificate with it saying it's boxwood blight free.
I hope so.
So that's the hope that is.
Because it has been found here in Shelby County.
It has been found, yes, but it's been brought in from other areas.
Right.
But if you already have boxwood, that's when I would be concerned about bringing new boxwood in, and I might want to quarantine them for a little while just to make sure. Mm-hmm. But if they have the certificate on hand, that's going to be the best way.
Okay.
They also have insect problems.
Well, it sounds like they have a lot of problems there.
They have mealybugs, they have scales, they have
Yes.
boxwood mite
Uh-huh.
and boxwood leaf miner. Mm-hmm. But those are very easily controlled if
They
you
are.
get them. And the most places that I have found the insect problems on them are places that are irrigated, just like you have the disease problems. So I have mine, but mine are not irrigated, and I don't
Neither
seem to
am I.
have any problem with mine.
I don't have any problems.
So I just, prefer that. But one thing you've got to remember is boxwood are shallow rooted. They are surface rooters. And so you really are not supposed to disturb them. So if you plant a boxwood, don't put it next to an annual bed that you're going to continually dig in.
Right, makes
because
sense.
then that's going to keep disturbing the root system. They don't like the root systems disturbed. So that goes back to what I was talking about before. The estates, they have the boxwoods out front. There's nothing else around them. They're not having their roots disturbed.
That makes sense.
So that's the one thing to remember about boxwood.
Okay. Shallow
Now,
rooted.
there's a couple of different types of boxwoods. There's one called microphylla, and that's usually considered all of the Korean boxwoods, the little leaf boxwoods, and the Japanese boxwoods seem to come from that family
Okay.
and that genus and species. They also are more cold hardy than some of the others. They can go down to zone 4. And 6 and 7 is where it likes to live, but it'll even go to zone 9. So, I mean, it's got the widest range for boxwood for it to live in. And they are, of course, you're supposed to get 3 to 4 feet round, but, they'll get bigger than that.
Yeah.
But now the boxwood, the sempervirens, this is the common boxwood. It is the one we most think of when we think of boxwood, and it can get 15 to 20 feet.
My goodness.
But then there's a lot of the dwarf boxwoods, they call English boxwoods, and they come from the sempervirens line.
Okay.
So they're all related. And that's the ones I have here. These are mine. They've been in the ground for 18 years.
Wow.
And they are still under 18 inches tall.
Okay.
So they're slow growing. The sempervirens is a slow growing boxwood. And now this particular one here is a upright form. It grows in a slender column, which I've put in a container. So it does really well. You see how nice and green these are. And they don't have any disease or bug problems because I don't have irrigation, and I do water them during drought, but I don't water them continually. So they
How
don't
about that?
have.
Look at Joellen. Look at that. These look nice.
Yeah, and see, this one's really
You're taking good care of your boxwood.
tiny leafed boxwood
It really
here.
is.
They do very well, and I've been very pleased with them. So I've never had a lot of problem with
Yeah, these
boxwood.
look good.
So I like the boxwood.
Now, let me ask you about pruning, because of course we know the practice. Most people like to shear them into meatballs and things
No.
like that. So what do you
No.
think about that?
Well, like I did with these. You see, I cut this at where another one of these branches, see, I would cut this again right here.
Which is the correct way to do that.
And I trim mine a lot around the holidays because I use them for decorations,
okay.
or if I need a flower arrangement, and I'll cut some of these for the greenery in there.
Right.
That's the only time I usually prune them. Now, because of the boxwood blight, I was looking at my boxwood and I decided to trim them a little bit. And I said, all these nice, and I'm thinking this too, these are nice cuttings. What I would like to do is strip these, put some rooting powder on this, and stick it in some moist soil and leave it for a while and it will root. So I have done that too. And if you have boxwood and you want to propagate them, that would be a way
That'd be a good way
to do that.
How about that? It's good stuff, Joe. We appreciate that. We need to come out to your place and see these.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
these look beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
When you're preparing to cut down a tree, you want to make sure that it goes in the direction that you want it to go in. So it's real important to understand the lean of the tree. This tree behind me, this Virginia pine, appears to be standing straight up. From your angle, from where the audience is, it looks like the tree is standing straight up. But let's make sure. I have a method of looking at the tree and doing a 3-point walkabout and looking up the trunk of the tree to determine which way it's actually leaning. So I'm gonna step over here and take a look. First point is looking straight up here. It just about looks like it's standing straight up from where I'm at. Come over here, on this side, it looks like it's leaning that direction. So let's look at it from one more direction. Back here. So this tree is definitely leaning that direction. Now that we've determined the tree is leaning due south, we know that the tree is going that direction. Deeper notch, back cut, and we're good to go.
All right, Wes, here's our Q&A segment. You ready?
I'm ready.
These are great questions.
They are.
All right, so let's go. Question number 1. Last year, our 10-year-old Japanese maple had several limbs that did not leaf out. I pruned them off. This year, several more did not leaf out. It sits under a Bradford pear and does not get much sunlight. I can find no critters on the bark or the leaves. Why are some limbs of my Japanese maple not leafing out? Is this a bad site to plant a replacement Japanese maple? This is Robert in Tennessee. So Wes, a couple of things here. Let's start with this. It sits under a Bradford pear. What do we think about that?
Yeah, well, the Bradford pear probably should be removed.
Oh, okay.
Not probably, but should.
Should,
It's an
right.
invasive species.
Right.
It's the bane of trees that we're planted.
Sure.
They're here, we have to deal with them, but I'm not going to have one in my yard.
Right.
That's number one.
That's number 1. Remove it.
Number 2, I'm not totally sure about this, but that Bradford pear could be producing chemicals
Could be.
into the soil that prohibits other trees from growing around it.
Right.
So that's number 2.
This is allelopathic.
Allelopathic,
Allelopathic
yes.
properties. Okay.
But chances are it's going to be something more mechanical. It could be like some girdling roots or something on the tree, and it's just causing the tree to go into decline. It could be sun scorch.
Okay.
Or something else. So the limbs that aren't leafing out are probably not going to leaf out. So I think we may have a loss of a Japanese maple here.
Loss of a Japanese maple.
Yeah.
So
But do not plant in the same
right,
spot.
so I was going to ask you that. So you wouldn't plant it? Okay.
No, it wasn't successful in
Right.
that spot. I don't think I would try it twice.
Okay. So there you have it, Robert. I would not try it twice. Huh. Yeah. Japanese maples are beautiful trees. Yeah, I want
I
it
love
to
Japanese
be somewhere
maples.
else.
I
That'd be a
have-
focal point.
Yeah,
you know, if you could.
I have 2
Yeah.
in my yard.
Robert, we thank you for that question. Here's our next viewer email. I have a weeping Atlas cedar. It is not a common tree. I just noticed white sap and stress cracks while weeding near the trunk. I planted the tree 15 years ago. It is my garden focus. I tried looking it up on the internet and most said to ask an arborist. What should I do? And this is Stephanie from Memphis, Tennessee. So Miss Stephanie, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna ask an arborist. So Wes, what do you think about that?
Judging by the pictures, it looks like I'm looking at compressed wood. You know, maybe from we had a couple winters when the ice put a lot of weight on the trees, all right? Like the saucer magnolias that are out front of my office. It took me a little while to observe it, but after the tree continued to grow, I could see where that wood was compressed, and that's where the vascular tissue was damaged.
Okay.
If you notice in the pictures, there's a bend right there, and there's a bend in the second
There sure
picture.
is, yeah.
So I'm going to make a strong assumption that that's compressed vascular tissue, and it's caused some small lesions in that area.
Okay.
And so the sap is going to try to protect itself and ooze out of those areas.
Okay.
Now, the 2 other things it could be, which I don't think they are, one would be disease, which, if you compare this to like a spruce or something, then you get that cytospora canker on the lower part of the tree.
So I was going to mention canker as one option.
This
maybe?
doesn't look
Okay.
like canker
Okay.
to me.
Good.
I don't see
Good.
pustules
Good. Okay.
on here.
Good.
Or
What about any insect damage? I know.
I
cedar
don't
apple,
see any boreholes.
Okay. But I was thinking borers, weevils,
Yeah.
something else. Okay.
If I had to look at the history that we've had the last couple of years, I'm going to go with compressed wood.
Okay.
So
Now, is there anything that they can do about that, though?
not really,
Okay.
not really. Just keep an eye on it.
Okay.
There is a weeping Atlas cedar at the Botanic Garden. I don't know what happened to it, but one part of it died.
Okay.
The other half is still living, but I don't have an explanation for
Sure,
that.
sure.
But usually Atlas cedars are pretty tough in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, slow growers. They look,
Slow
they,
growers, they're
They look
beautiful.
beautiful, though. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some
Nice.
real beautiful ones at the Memphis Pink Palace too.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we did ask our certified arborists. Hope they helped you out. All right. So here's our next viewer email. What is the most I can trim off my crepe myrtles without permanently damaging them? Thank you. Rob from Johnson City, Tennessee. And I know you like those questions about the crepe myrtles.
I do. And
so what do you think? That's pretty good size crepe myrtle too.
As far as this crepe myrtle goes, I'm not a tree topper. Mr. Hopper ain't a topper. So here's how I treat crepe myrtles. I selectively go in and I take out the stalks that aren't needed.
Okay.
This one here appears to have a lot of unnecessary growth in there. So I start with the bottom, what I can get with a handsaw, and then step away from it for a minute, take a look at the canopy and do just a little touch-up pruning. So a crepe myrtle is going to respond well.
Okay.
In Johnson City, probably has a little bit colder temperatures than we have here in the winter times. So I wouldn't be trying to take off too much of the upper canopy. So I just go in and clean it out where you can see through it and it doesn't look like a bush, but it looks like a tree.
Right.
So selectively choose the stems that you want to remain.
Okay.
The ones that contribute to that upper canopy the most.
And that's what you're looking for.
That's what I did with the crepe myrtles at my office.
Okay. And you did that for us as well. Remember that.
I did.
You should remember that. So Rob, there you have it from our certified arborists. Hope that helps you out there.
Yep.
Wes, that was good. It's fun. Thank you much.
Always fun.
All right, thank you. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about taking care of or using a chainsaw, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We also have more information about boxwood shrubs there too. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.